The fog around him seemed to pull at him from every angle, and a sudden light-headed feeling comes over him as he tries to shake the feeling off. Christopher pauses from collecting tools and a new switch and holds his head, which is suddenly pounding with pain. A seemingly mechanical pulse transfixed him to a point that in his mind panic grips him. He drops the items he had come for, stumbles to the workbench nearby, and leans on it trying to regain his bearings. After a few minutes, the world around him seems to calm down and fall back into a sense of normality. The headache fades, and with it the mechanical pulsation rippling through the world seemed, for a moment, to calm. Even the vibrations of the plants surrounding him seems to fade away. A sudden sense of well-being and serenity falls over him as he wipes at his brow and questions what had just happened. Picking up the tools and the switch, as well as a small assortment of screws, he gathered himself and proceeded back out to the basement storage area, pausing only beside a water fountain near the stairs leading up to the main floor. The water, cool and crisp, seemed to awaken him as its coolness trickled throughout his body. As he drank, the shadows around him watched and waited. Their work had been done. It was just a matter of time, and their plans would be done. The darkness of the Canary Button Company had found its new proxy. Returning to the office, he stops only for a moment to look over the door plate to the side of the door. The numbers 205 raised from the plate were smooth as he ran his thumb across them before knocking again on the office door. Mary responded, and as the door opened, Christopher made his way inside with no idea of the things that would be to come. The switches were removed, and as he did his work, a small conversation gripped them both within its grasp. Mary had recently moved to the city and had many questions about the surrounding areas and rumours she had heard about their place of employment. Christopher laughed and assured her that although the area had a history, she was in no danger. Mary laughed at the replies to her questions and felt stupid for having let the things she heard make her nervous in everyday life. My parents said I wouldn't be safe on my own here in the city when I got this job, but I told them there are nice people everywhere, and that I would meet nice people and it'd be okay. Mary smiled, looking around the office, and then pointed to Christopher. See? I came here and now I've met you. You're a nice person, aren't you, Chris? Christopher smiled and nodded. Indeed I am. Light switches swapped out and reassembled into their places. Christopher flips the switch and the lights that once had been dead flicker and then burn brightly overhead. He smiles as Mary holds up her hand and offers him a high five. The comical nature of it stunned him for a moment, but Christopher slowly does as she requests and gives her a 5 with a laugh. Blushing, Mary laughs slightly at her childishness before replying, Sorry, I do that sometimes when I'm nervous. I know it's not professional, and it looks bad in the situation. She fades off and looks around the room, trying to grasp a way to change the subject. It's okay by me, Christopher laughs and then continues. It's actually kind of cute. He picks up his few things and motions towards the door. I should go, but if you need anything, you know how to find me. Mary nods before he can exit the office and asks one more question. Is there a Mrs. She pauses for a moment, then continues. A Mrs. Chris? She blushes, asking the question, but her nervousness is put aside when with a smile Christopher replies, No. With that being said, Christopher makes his way out of the office with only a momentary backward glance to Mary, who waves when he does so. The feeling of his wedding ring on his finger mocks his lies, and although he does not understand why he so quickly lied, he would find out soon enough. How was work today? Clarissa asked, snapping Christopher out of the daze he had faded into. Realizing that he drifted into his own thoughts, he looks at her and smiles, his fork moving nervously on his plate. It was good. Busy mostly. You know how it is. Just normal things, fuses and light bulbs. I met a girl. His voice fades almost as if he caught himself speaking on something he shouldn't have. A girl? Clarissa smirks and takes a drink from her wineglass. Tell me about this girl, she playfully mocks him. Christopher laughs nervously. Oh, it's nothing. Just a girl in the office. She's nice. I changed out some switches for her so her lights would work. He picked up a fork full of spaghetti and fills his mouth before he can continue. Should I be jealous of this girl? Clarissa laughed playfully. Am I going to have to fight her? She makes a stabbing motion with her fork, and they both laugh. No, no fighting, Christopher replies and then continues. You know how I don't want anyone other than you. He smiles, and his mind reminds him of past conversations and his lie so blatantly told. They continue dinner with small talk, and afterwards Christopher stood up to collect the dishes and walked into the kitchen. As he does so, Clarissa calls to him. I'm going to take a shower. Christopher nods and continues into the kitchen. Rinsing the dishes in the sink, his head swirls with replays of his time with Mary. Her beautiful smile and the innocence that radiated out of her like a floodlight. He finishes the dishes and sets them, each in turn, into a small wire drying rack before turning around to exit the kitchen. Looking up, he suddenly pauses and shock slips into his mind. How did you get in here? How did you know where I live? He questions quickly. Mary stands in the kitchen door and laughs slightly. You told me to come. Don't you remember? She laughs and steps forward into the kitchen. The sound of shower water running in the distance is faded only by his heartbeat pounding in his ears. Mary steps in front of him, and as she does so, Christopher steps back towards the sink and looks past Mary towards the bathroom, where his wife is currently showering. I don't think you should be here, he says before she cuts him off with a small kiss. His head spins, and as it does so, he grasps back onto the countertop behind him to collect himself. Mary runs her tongue along his lips as the kiss breaks. Then she smiles and looks him over. This is what you wanted, isn't it? Her sudden brashness causes hesitance in his reply. Words elude him, and he just stares at Mary before him. Her black hair, no longer tied and pinned up as it had been in the day, tickled her shoulders and called to him. Mary smiles, running her hands down his chest, and then steps back slightly and unbuttons the top button on her blouse. Her pale skin beneath it calls out, and she holds the shirt open teasingly. Something in here you want? She almost mocks him as he stares silently, watching her movements. You can't be here. I mean, you really can't be here right now. Christopher pleads and looks back towards the bathroom beyond the kitchen. Mary unbuttons another button, and then the next, opening the shirt completely. Her breasts steadily heave inwards and back out as she breathes and moves closer to him. Christopher struggles to control the situation, but in his head the darkness has already taken hold. An almost mechanical rhythmic pulsing drowns out all other sounds. Mary moves her body closer, pulling herself in for another kiss. The world around them flickers within the mechanical pulse that seems to engulf everything, and a warmth greets them. Christopher no longer resists her attempts, and now wraps his arms around her, inhaling her scent as he does so. Chris! Christopher! Snapping into clarity, Christopher looks towards the door of the kitchen to find Clarissa wrapped in her towel. Christopher looks over the room, suddenly finding it empty, and then back to Clarissa. Sorry, what do you need? Clarissa looks at him strangely. Are you okay? You've been acting weird all day. She steps into the kitchen and looks him over closely. He nods and tries to pull away as she checks his forehead. Are you coming down with something? She asks before continuing. Have you been having problems sleeping again? I told you to tell me if you were, and we'll go see Dr. Stevens again. Shaking his head, he steps out of her grasp. No, I'm fine. I'm sleeping fine. It's just been a long day. Just a long day, that's all. I must have dozed off or something. He steps from the kitchen towards their bedroom, passing the dining room table as he does so. Before he exited the room, however, Clarissa stops him. Chris, are you forgetting something? She taps the table several times. Christopher eyes the pills on the table, then looks back to Clarissa. I know, I forgot. He walks over to the table and claims the 3 pills, then pops each of them into his mouth before swallowing them down. They can't help you if you don't take them, Chris. Clarissa continued, but then is cut off. I know, hun, I just forgot, that's all. I forgot, it's been a long day, and I just want to go to bed. The suddenness of his anger silences any reply she could have made, and due to this Clarissa just nods and watches him disappear into the bedroom.